After the historic downfall of the attempted Third Reich by the German Nazis, the end of the Second World War saw Germany divided into 4 zones, occupied by members of the Allied Army: the United States, the British, French, and the Soviets. The capital Berlin was also greatly affected, also being split between the US, French, British, and the Soviets. This created a division between the Soviet-ruled East and Western Germany, occupied by the remaining 3 countries. East Germany saw up to 3 million citizens head to Western Germany in hopes of better opportunities, leading to a call from the communist leader of East Germany to have the 2 sides sealed off, restricting access between each other, resulting in the creation of the Berlin Wall in August 1961.
Life in the West was much better than in the East after 1948. Not only did the wall separate the West from the East, it also split families in half, destroying them. West Germany, including West Berlin, had got financial help from the USA. In East Germany, the communist system was established, and many people had to suffer under repressions of the Communist Party. The purpose of the wall varied, depending on which side you were on. People in the East believed the wall separated them from Nazi war criminals and fascists. Meanwhile, those in the West believed that the wall freed them from the communist East.
So what would it have been like for someone trying to cross over the wall?
Well, throughout the Cold War, the border fortifications were constantly being improved and developed. The first obstacle that fugitives would have encountered was the inner wall, closing off the border strip on the East German side. There was a signal fence that set off alarms when touched and activated, and usually there was a row of steel spikes pointing upwards at the bottom of the fence to injure fugitives. After a fugitive crossed the patrol road and security strip, he had to pass the tank traps that were designed to prevent escape with a car or truck. In the inner city area, they were usually made from railroad tracks joined together and enveloped in barbed wire, also making an obstacle for people trying to escape on foot. On the outer ring border, a ditch was also added. There were nearly 12-foot-high border wall as the last obstacle that a fugitive had to get over before reaching the West.
So, were there any other details you can remember about the wall? Any specific details that stood out?
Well, at some areas, watchdogs were used to block past and alert soldiers of running fugitives. At night time, the border strip was lit up brightly by a line of lamps, allowing border soldiers to see fugitives in the dark. The walls enclosing the border strip were white, so fugitives were seen easily. Watchtowers stood around 250 metres apart and were positioned so that soldiers could easily oversee the border area between 2 towers. Border soldiers were expected to recognise and stop fugitives from escaping, and also to maintain surveillance on the area of West Berlin that bordered the wall.
Do you know why the border wall was rebuilt in the late 70s?
In the late 70s, the border was rebuilt by the SED leadership. The new wall had much stronger blocking capacity and surveillance of all of East Germany, and the rear border area was strongly improved. This is the reason as to why border fortifications became less crucial to preventing escapes. But by the late 80s, shortly before the wall fell in 1989, most of the threatening obstacles between East and West Berlin had been removed from the wall. Today we're here with Joachim Newman, a prominent member of the group of students that set out to dig a tunnel underneath the Berlin Wall in 1963, after heading from East Germany of the GDR just a few years earlier. So Joachim, tell us why you were trying to help people escape from East Germany in such a dangerous and risky time with such relentless punishment.
Well, after I made it to West Germany using a Swift passport, a group of us just quickly concerned ourselves with passageways linking East and West Germany, trying to create tunnels that will help our friends and relatives escape to the West. For me, my main motive was to help my girlfriend at the time escape.
So what was the plan? How are you going to create the passageways, and what worked and what didn't?
Well, obviously, it took a lot of planning, and we knew how many people had tried and failed by making tunnels to try to go underneath the wall. So we knew how well we had to plan it and make sure nothing went wrong. Our first attempt at excavation was Tunnel 29, which we began working on in April 1962. The tunnel got about 30 people over the West Germany in September. Our next tunnel in the basement of Brunnenstrasse 45 the following year didn't go as well for us, with some secret police waiting for escapees in the tunnel, leading to several people being arrested and imprisoned, including my then girlfriend and my mother. After several other tunnels, some successful, some not, our biggest success came with Tunnel 57 in 64. The tunnel, which ran from Bonnerstrasse to Streitlitzerstrasse 55, managed to help 57 people escape over the course of the 2 nights in October that year.
So last question. Tell us about your escape. You mentioned using a Swiss passport. What was that all about?
Well, yeah, so after we had to agree to defend the state using weapons, shortly after the wall was built in 61, me and my university mates, we began to think more seriously about fleeing to the West. Carrying Swiss papers, including movie tickets, change and transportation tickets, we were able to flee through the train station in December, with help from some West Berlin students. Having dyed blonde hair at the time, looking the part wasn't the problem. My only problem was communicating with the Swiss police at checkpoints. Luckily, I was able to communicate briefly with hand gestures and kept my mouth shut the whole time, eventually making it to the west side of the wall.
It's been a long journey. Getting to this point, there's still a ways to go.
The 9th of November 1989 marks the infamous fall of the Berlin Wall. On midnight of that day, East Germany's communist rulers gave permission for gates along the wall to be opened as a result of days of mass protest. After decades of mass petition, East Berliners surged through, cheering and shouting, and were greeted by West Berliners on the other side. Ecstatic crowds immediately began to climb to the top of the wall and destroy segments of concrete floor.